Imagine being caught red-handed, evidence stacked against you, knowing you're heading straight to prison. Now imagine committing the same crime, but because of your job title, you walk free. This isn't a hypothetical, it's the reality for American politicians, and the system is rigged. You, me, your neighbor, we're all subject to the same laws, facing the same consequences when we break them. A misdemeanor, a felony, a white-collar crime, the justice system, in theory, treats us all equally. But step inside the gilded halls of Washington, D.C., and that theory crumbles. Politicians, from city council members to senators, regularly engage in behavior that would land any of us in an orange jumpsuit. Yet, somehow, they rarely do. Why? It's not about what they know, it's about who they are. It's about a deeply entrenched, bipartisan system designed to protect itself, to shield its own from accountability, and to maintain the illusion of justice while operating under a completely different set of rules. This isn't an accident. It is by design. Consider the sheer volume of potential transgressions. Insider trading, misusing campaign funds, outright bribery, perjury during congressional testimony, even sexual assault. The allegations against elected officials are frequent and often credible. Yet, the conviction rate for politicians, particularly those at the federal level, is astonishingly low compared to the general population. It's a statistical anomaly that demands an explanation. To understand this impunity, we first have to look at the gatekeepers of justice. Who investigates politicians? Who prosecutes them? And who decides what constitutes a prosecutable offense in the first place? The answers reveal a web of interconnected interests, where the lines between the investigated and the investigators often blur. Take the Department of Justice, for example. It's the primary federal agency responsible for prosecuting crimes. But the Attorney General, who heads the DOJ, is a political appointee, nominated by the President and confirmed by the Senate. Both the President and the Senate are composed of politicians. This creates an inherent conflict of interest. Does an Attorney General eager to maintain favor with the administration truly have the independence to pursue charges against high-ranking members of that same administration, or their political allies, with the same vigor they would pursue a common citizen? History suggests otherwise. Then there's the issue of referrals. Many investigations into political misconduct start with referrals from internal ethics committees within Congress itself. The House Ethics Committee, the Senate Ethics Committee, these are bipartisan bodies made up of, you guessed it, politicians. Their mandate is to police their own. But their track record is, to put it mildly, abysmal. Often, these committees drag their feet for years, conduct investigations in secret, and ultimately issue a slap on the wrist, a public censure, or a quiet dismissal. The goal often seems to be damage control, not genuine accountability. How many times have you heard of a Congressional Ethics Committee recommending criminal charges that actually stick? Almost never. And even when an investigation does gain traction, even when evidence mounts, the process grinds to a halt. One of the most common reasons cited for not prosecuting a politician is lack of sufficient evidence. But what constitutes sufficient evidence when you're dealing with individuals who have access to the best legal defense money can buy, who can invoke executive privilege, who can stonewall investigations, and who benefit from a culture of deference? For you, lack of sufficient evidence might mean a flawed police report. For them, it means a protracted legal battle that drains public resources and political will. Consider the financial crimes. Insider trading is explicitly illegal. Members of Congress, by virtue of their positions, receive privileged information about impending legislation, regulations, and government contracts that can directly impact stock prices. They often sit on committees that draft these very laws. If you or I traded on non-public information we gleaned from our workplace, we'd be facing serious prison time. But for politicians, the Stock Act, passed in 2012, was supposed to prevent this. Yet, studies and investigative reports consistently show that many members of Congress and their staff continue to outperform the market, making suspiciously well-timed trades around legislative events. The enforcement of the Stock Act has been notoriously weak, often resulting in minor fines or no action at all. It's almost as if the law was designed with loopholes big enough for a congressional yacht to sail through. Let's talk about campaign finance. The rules are complex, intentionally so. Donors, PACs, super PACs, the money flowing into political campaigns is staggering. And while direct bribery is illegal, the lines blur when it comes to donations given in exchange for access or influence. A politician votes a certain way, a corporation receives a favorable contract, and coincidentally, that corporation's executives made substantial contributions to the politician's re-election campaign. It happens constantly. Proving quid pro quo, that direct exchange of a specific action for a specific sum, is incredibly difficult. Prosecutors need to show intent, a direct agreement, and that's often buried beneath layers of plausible deniability. For you, taking cash under the table for a favor is a clear crime. For them, it's often reclassified as political horse trading or constituency service. And what about perjury? Lying under oath is a serious felony, punishable by years in prison. We've seen regular citizens go to jail for it. Yet, when high-ranking officials or politicians testify before Congress or investigative bodies, they often engage in evasiveness, selective memory, or outright falsehoods. The process of holding them accountable for perjury is incredibly convoluted. It requires a referral, a full investigation, and a high burden of proof that often seems unattainable when the person being investigated holds significant power. It's a different standard of truth, it seems, when you're in a position of power. The very culture of Washington also plays a significant role. There's a powerful omerta, an unspoken code of silence and mutual protection. Politicians on both sides of the aisle often have more in common with each other than with the constituents they represent. They share the same social circles, the same fundraisers, the same career aspirations. To aggressively pursue criminal charges against a fellow politician, even one from the opposing party, can be seen as breaking ranks, as setting a precedent that could eventually come back to haunt them. It's a self-preserving ecosystem. Think about the resources involved. Prosecuting a high-profile politician is incredibly expensive and time-consuming. It involves mountains of documents, expert witnesses, and potentially lengthy court battles. For a prosecutor, there's enormous pressure to win, and to win big. Going after a politician, especially a well-funded one, is a high-risk, high-reward endeavor. Often, the path of least resistance is to pursue easier cases against people who don't have an army of lawyers and a network of powerful allies. And let's not forget the power of public perception and the media. When a politician is accused of a crime, their team immediately goes into overdrive to control the narrative. They issue denials, attack the credibility of accusers, frame the investigation as politically motivated, and generate sympathy. This PR war can significantly impact the willingness of prosecutors to pursue a case, fearing a public backlash or the perception of political targeting. For you, the narrative is often controlled by the headlines. For them, they actively shape it. So, what's the net effect? A system where accountability is an exception, not the rule. A system where the powerful are insulated, and the average citizen bears the full weight of the law. It creates a two-tiered justice system, one for us, and one for them. This isn't about isolated incidents of corruption, it's about a structural failure, a fundamental flaw in how power is policed in America. It's not an accident that politicians so rarely go to prison for offenses that would land you behind bars. It is by design. It's the intended outcome of a system built to protect itself, to make